What is up, my guys, and welcome back to the channel known as Azure. As always, I'm your most endearing co-host, and making his return is my second best co-host.
Julian.
Yep, that's right, you heard me right. Second best. Everyone loves Juan for some reason. Well, gotta say, Juan does have that appeal to him, don't you think?
Hey, well, as a little preview, you're probably gonna find the best one coming soon.
Oh yeah, that's true. If we actually get him, if we actually manage to get them to agree to this, yeah, you're about to see like some somewhat big name people come to the channel. Anyways, let's get to it. What you all came here for: Shaun of the Dead, Edgar written and directed by Edgar Wright. I want to say like this might be wasn't this his first major film debut, Shaun of the Dead?
This is one of his first major one when it comes to being in the spotlight. That it was got a big popularity boost.
Yeah, 'cause I remember like he did a few shorter, like a few like movie skits. I want to say like they weren't full fledged movies, but they weren't short enough to be like actual TV episodes or the duration of a TV episode or anything like that.
You could say this was like his like Pulp Fiction, or if you want to go animated wise, you could say like like Nausicaa, where it's like those directors did stuff before that, where like Miyazaki did like a Lupin film, and then like Tarantino did like Reservoir Dogs, but like the first like big film, yeah, Shaun does that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Just wanted to be clear on what was his biggest debut and what is his current status and everything like that. So yeah, Shaun of the Dead. If you guys don't know what that is basically a comedic zombie film. So basically, it's kind of like Zombieland, but without the meta stuff, or kind of with the meta stuff, but it's more intertwined within the story. Like it's not in your face meta stuff. It's more like subtle meta stuff. That's what I say. I think I've got that right. Is that right?
It's basically like a zombie film if it was the British Office, but yeah, basically just really British humor. Very like the mundane being absurd.
Yeah,
it's kind of the idea where like Zombieland's very much more like they're getting into it, like very wacky, where this is more like the wackiness comes from how normal everything is.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the story first. The movie follows Shaun, of course, because it's Shaun of the Dead, played by Simon Pegg, who also co-wrote this movie. Wrote? Is it? Which one's right? I don't know. Is it writ or is it wrote?
You should say wrote. That should be fine.
All right. He co-wrote this movie with Edgar Wright. So yeah, he plays the lead character Shaun, and the story goes as follows: where it's the zombie apocalypse, and he's trying to prove himself that he's not useless because in earlier scenes, his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, claimed that he's useless and all he ever wants to do is go to the pub, which is basically a bar. If you guys don't know that, they'll call it the Winchester, with his friend Ed, who's played by Nick Frost. Nick Frost is honestly just hilarious in and of himself. Like he could probably carry a movie on his own. Like he's a funny guy. Like he doesn't have to do anything. That's how I saw him in this movie. Like this was my first actual viewing of Shaun of the Dead. I don't know if you saw Shaun of the Dead earlier before this, Julian. Did you?
Oh yeah, many times, along with Hot Fuzz. Is one of the classics when it comes to probably one of the first British comedies at all that I watched, along with like the Monty Python stuff, like Holy Grail and things like that.
Yeah, so this was my first deep endeavor into the Shaun of the Dead things. It's not my first Edgar Wright movie. I will say that it's not my first Edgar Wright. My first Edgar Wright would always be Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So yeah, we'll probably do a video on that sometime in the future. No promises, but either way, yeah.
It would have been appropriate this week considering the game's coming out again.
That is true. At the time of this recording, the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game is making a comeback. So maybe we'll do a video on the movie, maybe we'll do a video on the game, maybe on the comic books actually, because Scott Pilgrim is actually a comic book. But we'll see where that goes. Anyways, back to the movie. Basically, the zombie apocalypse happens, but everyone's literally acting casual about it. Like literally, no one's freaking out that much, or anything at all. They're literally just like, oh, it's just an inconvenience to them at this point. And I want to say like that's where most of the comedy stems from. Like how you said before, where it's basically like all the comedic stuff comes for the fact that there's a lack of tension mainly for the most part of the movie. Like in a sense, like there's this one scene where there's a zombie in the shower attacking Shaun, but all he literally has to do is just close the door, and then the zombie can't even open the door right until like the last few minutes of the movie where we see him come back to the pub where they're all hiding out. So that were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this is actually based off of a real life account. Is that Edgar Wright, that did happen to him, where something similar to like an apocalypse or epidemic happened, and he just completely didn't know about it, since this was before the internet or phone thing, where you're just getting bombarded by like, oh, this thing's happening right now, this thing's happening right now. You had to pay attention no matter what. So back then it'd be if you just didn't turn on the TV for the news, you could just ignore everything. And so since he didn't watch TV for a while, he didn't check the foot and mouth epidemic of 2001, and so exactly like how like Shaun just kind of like walks around the first time, and he just like does the same stuff with the zombies, and he doesn't even know it's a zombie. That exactly happened to Edgar Wright during that epidemic, because like it didn't affect him. Why should he care? It didn't affect Shaun.
Why should he care?
Yeah. Like, what's that gonna do to him? He didn't die, so just go back to your daily life.
Oh wait, hold on. What was the foot and mouth thing? Because I've heard about it, but I never actually did any background research into it. Like, so what is the foot and mouth thing of 2001?
It was mainly just like an agricultural crisis kind of thing. So just like a lot of stuff of just quarantining and like, it's kind of hard to say, just like waste and basically a big mess when it came to like food and resources.
Okay.
And so it's that kind of, it would be harder to get into longer for that, since it takes a bit while, but it's just kind of like, it was a big deal, but he just kind of didn't even notice it happened.
I guess that makes sense. Kind of like with the whole, I want to say like swine flu epidemic that happened like back in 2010, where like I didn't even know what was going on at that point, and like I was just out everywhere and stuff like that as a kid, and everyone said, "Oh yeah, swine flu's out there. Be careful." I'm like, what the fuck is swine flu? Like, I don't know what it is. No one I knew what it was. No one I knew got it. So like, what the fuck does it have to do with me? I was living my life, kind of like how Shaun and Edgar were.
Yeah, another good example would be, say, H1N1, where that was actually a pretty big deal, but like, it didn't really affect much overall, and so
exactly
like that had like a 10% chance or something of like
mortality rate
killing you. Yeah. Like, so like that was a big one, but if you just didn't watch the news, doesn't affect you.
Yeah, you were fine, basically, like that. So yeah, back to the movie. Like, the whole movie in itself is honestly pretty entertaining. Just like the shots that Edgar Wright takes, the editing part he does. Like, back to where Julian was saying, like the whole where Shaun relives his basic Monday routine, where he goes from his apartment to the store to back. Like, it's literally that, whereas his normal life and the zombie life is basically a shot-for-shot remake. Just add the zombies and him not caring, and a few little small details. Like in the first shot, it shows that he grabs a regular Coke, but in the second one, it shows he has a Diet Coke, because in a way to get his ex-girlfriend back, she said that he was going to start dieting and everything like that, so he picks up a Diet Coke instead to start changing his life around, which is kind of fun. Like, you don't really see that many directors actually like take that much attention to detail, so I gotta give Edgar Wright respect for that. Like, even for little stuff like how the landlord says like, oh, they never lock the door at night, and the next day, like, yep, the door is unlocked, and that's how a zombie gets in, and so on and so forth. It's like little things like that. I'll give Edgar Wright props that he does like a lot of this stuff in his other movies too. I will say, like, it's not perfect, but it's better than what most people would do. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's in a lot of his movies. He really knows how to make it quick and snappy, but you still see all the details you need to. And I mean, what we will do later at some point will probably be Hot Fuzz, and that's like the perfect example of how he does his editing. Oh yeah. If you really want to see it, that and I think he did Baby Driver, right?
Yeah, he did a Baby Driver.
Yeah, that's
probably
Baby
his most
Driver.
popular movie.
Oh yeah, sorry, but that and Baby Driver, those are like the two movies you got to see where it shows exactly how he does this thing, and is really where he like masters it. Because Scott Pilgrim's also good, but it's definitely like he had some like he's adapting something, so
yeah,
there's a little bit more limitations. Where with those two, he gets to have like full reign, and it really shows like he has a really big mastery at that point.
Yeah, it's the same thing goes for like when he did AntMan too. Like, yeah, if you guys didn't know, like, he was on board for directing AntMan for the first director, but because of studio interferences, creative differences, and so on and so forth, he left the project. But you can still see some of Edgar Wright's work in that movie, where like, and one of the scenes where like people are talking through other people, like Luis is talking through Scott's talking to Luis, and a whole bunch of flashback stuff. That's literally just pure Edgar Wright right there, in a sense. Remember that scene?
Yeah, I
he's,
remember some of the scenes in AntMan. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely a thing where they're just like, man, talking about AntMan for me would be like half of that would just be about how much of like the good parts of that film are just the stuff that kept with Edgar Wright, and how
Mhm.
some of the more mediocre stuff is because like the new director really is not of the same.
Yeah, it's not the same caliber as Edgar Wright, so you can't really match the same thing he gives off in a sense.
Especially with his relation with the actors, because I mean you can really see with Edgar Wright how his relation with like Paul
Simon.
Rudd.
Oh yeah, Paul Rudd. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like in this one also with like Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, just like the big like
The whole chemistry that they had with each other, both on set and offset and everything like that. Because a little background thing, like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost didn't really work together before this movie, so this was a chance to actually see them come together and become friends. And they actually did become friends throughout the runtime of this movie. You can see how actually that little bit of friendship shows it in the movie, like how friends that usually act around each other, protect one another, argue with each other, like how in one scene where Shaun ends up blowing up on Ed because he answered the phone while they're actually fighting off zombies trying to get back into the Winchester. So like, yep, that's literally what I would do to one of you guys. You guys took a minute to fucking answer your phone or something like that. I would literally just smack that phone out of your hand, scream at you, and basically just keep fighting. That's all. That's literally what I would do.
yeah, it's also great the concept of just
Mm-hmm.
with the realism, just like what would a real person do? What would a British person do? Because when British stuff is like, oh, they're very like that polite or certain level of cordial, like oh, you gotta be professional or like a certain like etiquette to this, so how to do things. So that's actually something that happened with Pegg, where he was playing Resident Evil 2 and he saw all this stuff with like in the game, or also just like with the Romero films and stuff, and he's like, there's not that many films with like British people, I guess you could say, in like a zombie thing. It's like, how would they deal with this?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you mainly only see like one perspective of the zombie film, which is more so an American viewpoint, because I think it was like Romero films basically pioneered the zombie type film. So of course, I mean, mostly American-made zombie films that get the most attention and the most viewpoints at that point. But it's still fun to see like other places. I remember like another British zombie movie. It's like I forget the name of it, but it's actually pretty interesting. Like the zombies don't bite you, but they still can infect you, and like it's kind of like how it was in World War Z, where they're actually faster and smarter than the average thing. But instead of having a weakness to sickness, they literally had no weakness except for like
I know
the
what you're
casual.
talking about. It's the ending is where the nuke goes off, right?
No, that's not it.
Okay, because there's another one like that where they don't have a weakness and they're faster, and it was in the 80s, and like at the end it's like they just like nuke the place, and it's like
I know which one you're talking about too. Yeah, I know. Well, no, the one I was talking about was more new age. It was it was more new age and everything like that. So it wasn't made in the 80s. I saw it on YouTube actually. The whole movie was on YouTube, but I forget what it was called. I haven't seen it in like years, so that's the thing. But it was a British one too. But it was more so American sized British movie, zombie movie. So yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, what's it called? Back to the movie. Like probably like the best scene comes from when they're fighting off the zombies in the Winchester, like the whole "Don't Stop Me Now" scene by Queen, and them trying to figure out how to turn off the jukebox and everything like that. How Edgar Wright manages to make the switches actually in the same beat time as the song goes on. That was actually pretty impressive. I didn't notice that at first, and then I was like, wait, something's going on. There's a reason why there's cutting back and forth to the switches, other than the fact that he's trying to. It's a little bit of it's a little comedy moment. I was thinking, wait, the switch flippers are actually in time with the beat. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's the thing. Like Edgar Wright's like his way of directing it is always impressive. Like even if you've seen a movie, one of his movies so many times, like there's always like little things that you miss the first time and so forth that you see on multiple viewings. In a sense, like not a lot of directors actually can accomplish that thing. Like a few directors, maybe like Tarantino, stuff like that. Maybe Spielberg at some points, like you see like little details and everything like that. But most of the new age directors, like not really much. Stanley Kubrick also, like with his work in The Shining, like there's a whole bunch of little details that go unnoticed until like a fourth or fifth time viewing the movie.
Well, we're talking about this, and also there's guys like Lynch, but that's also to the extent of like movies afterwards, like where it's like there's details within a movie that only get like you only can see the true thing if you rewatch like all the whole series kind of thing.
Yeah, that too. Because I also like this. We didn't even talk about this, but like this movie is actually just one of 3 movies that are not really mostly sequels, but it's called the Cornetto trilogy in a sense because they all have like one thing in common where either Nick Frost's character has a cornetto, which is a British ice cream treat. Do they sell those in America? I don't know. Do you know?
I couldn't say, but yeah, it's like they're loosely connected, and it's more like it's the same group of people kind of making similar content, like similar humor and like pacing, and just overall like they're not sequels in the sense of the same characters, but in the sense of like how the actors portray the characters, in a sense of just like they're like actors in a stage, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like the same like play, it's just they're in different settings in a sense.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, so yeah, like because they're called the 3 flavors of cornetto, actually, not 3 movies of cornetto. Because I believe cornettos come in 3 different flavors, which I would normally expect because there's 3 main flavors of ice cream, unless you want to get all funky with the stuff. So it's like vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. I want to say Shaun of the Dead is the vanilla flavor, which is the basic one people get interested in. And the chocolate one is Hot Fuzz, which is what a lot of people like because from what I've heard, Hot Fuzz. Well, like you're an example too, like where Hot Fuzz is basically the better of the trilogy and everyone's favorite movie. Then the strawberry, which no one really likes that much, whereas my opinion personally, what I've seen through other people that I've asked, would be World's End, or what is it, at World's End or just World's End? I don't even know them.
I haven't watched it since I think the first time. Like I'll rewatch Shaun of the Dead and like Hot Fuzz however many times someone asks me to, but with like At World's End, it's like I watched it once, I'm good for the rest of my life.
Yeah, the same thing with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. I have not seen World's End either. But prior to when we watched Hot Fuzz, I never saw the movie.
Yeah, like World's End isn't like bad or anything. It's just like
compared to the other 2, it's not as strong.
Or even most of like his work, honestly.
Yeah, like, it's not really like a tipping off point, but it's more like he still could have done better than how it was. I think it's because like the bar was set so high with Hot Fuzz that anything before that would have been a letdown in a sense. But so yeah, it's kind of like, oh, you reached your magnum opus in a way, so you can't really top that. You can only go down and then raise the bar back up to a certain level.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's even that. It's more like, what is it? It's not even like, it's just kind of safe. I guess that's the word I'm using. It's like it's safe, and there's nothing really too crazy about it. And so it's not even like about the magnum opus, because like Baby Driver, it's probably not as good as like Hot Fuzz or like Shaun of the Dead to people, but that's still like different enough and unique enough where it's like it's not bland or boring. Where with like World End, it's just kind of there. And that's the worst kind of thing you can have in a film, is nothing interesting. It's just competence.
There. Yeah, that's really what I was going to say too. I was going to say, yeah, it's just there. Like, nothing stands out of it. And I'm even looking at the poster right now, and it's like, yeah, there's nothing really standing out in the poster of it. So I was like, okay, if we watch it, we watch it. If not, I could live without it. So yeah. Honestly, it's going to be depending on you guys if you want to watch, if you guys want us to do a video on World's End or not. So yeah, that's going to be all on you. I'm not. If we watch it, we can watch it. If not, then that's fine. Yeah. Shaun of the Dead. You should actually, if you guys haven't seen it, or if you guys just want to rewatch it, honestly rewatch it and just pay attention to the little details that actually pop up in it.
Oh wait, so I just want to say one thing about the last scene actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is I really like the fact that everyone just kind of gets used to the new, like it's not even the new normal, right? That kind of thing. It's like the old normal. It's like people don't want to admit the fact that like a zombie infestation happens. So like that's why it's so perfect that like his friend's a zombie, and he just acts like the guy's like still there.
That's because like sorry I'm cutting you off, but like we don't get this thing out. Like yeah, like the ending, like they survive the zombie apocalypse. The military comes in and they dispose of most of the zombies, but they figure out that just because they're zombies doesn't mean they can't do their job. They retain some sort of consciousness where they could do the most mundane of things, like say they could push carts back into their place, they could play video games like what Julian just said, and so on and so forth. They're even in game shows like a British version of Wipeout or something like that. Well, so there's that. So yeah, everyone literally just doesn't want to admit a zombie apocalypse happens, but they kind of just can't ignore it, but they just adopted it into their daily lifestyle now. So that's like you're saying.
well, because there's like this one. It's not a study, but there's like a theory that's kind of confirmed, which is that people kind of have like a certain neutral, like emotional thing, which makes it so that you'll get used to highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, obviously you'll be stressed out and stuff, but eventually it just becomes so normal and you're so used to it that it's like your body kind of goes back to being like, okay, yeah, this is how it works now.
Yeah.
Like, it reconfigures into how society works. This new thing, like, just conforms to how society works. And also, it's also kind of a play on, like, the fact that there's an old quote by, not Ben Franklin, but it gets quoted that he did it a lot, which is like, you die at 25, but you only get put in your casket at 75. So it's kind of saying, like, there are already zombies already. Like, there was nothing there that needed them to really have all their functions. Like, they can do these mundane tasks with just, like, being a zombie.
Yeah, speaking of that, like, that draws back to, like, the first scene where, like, you see all the credits rolling in, and you see, like, the music and how people are shot in a way, like, yeah, they're literally just zombies in and of itself, like actual living zombies in a sense, where they just trying to get through their day, and like they're not even trying to do anything special or anything like that. Same thing goes for Shaun's character, where the first frame is him, you could hear groaning. He's like, oh, see the first zombie, but nope, he's just yawning. That's it. That's literally like just showing like, yep, these people are already zombies. They didn't really even need an apocalypse to make it seem like people were zombies. So yeah. So yeah, back to like, if you guys want to watch Shaun of the Dead, if you guys want to rewatch it, of course rewatch it. Just like, if you literally just fun to like watch an Edgar Wright film and just look at how he does this filming and what he does different than other directors, really. So yeah, and again, if you guys want to watch World's End, you guys already know what to do. Comments, everything like that. As always, like, I'll leave Twitch and Discord out in the descriptions, along with my new Instagram. You guys, make sure if you want, follow me. If not, fuck it, I don't really care, because you can't control me, I can't control you. We're gonna do our own shit. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do for this video. Unless you want to add something more, Julian.
Let's see. I guess with the whole thing, I'll make this a quick one, which is, out of the 3 films, this one's like more deadpan. So yeah, that's another thing. If you want a really good deadpan movie, if you rewatched it, this is still really good when it comes to that.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, as always, guys, everything you want to discuss, description or comments. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.